This is Sunday Assembly Manchester. We are a community that started in London by two stand-up comedians who decided to set up Sunday Assembly. They didn't expect 400 people to turn up on their first gig. Actually, it might have been about 200, but it was definitely a few hundred. And people really wanted this. They wanted something in their life that wasn't based on religion, but still had some great elements to it that have helped us celebrate life for millennia. And they created Sunday Assembly. It started in London. About 9 months later, the Manchester version began, and we've been meeting every week online. Normally we'd meet once a month, but our very hard-working volunteers have all ensured that you've got great entertainment, things to make you think, things to make you feel better on a Sunday, every single Sunday at 11 o'clock. So that is brilliant. We want to live better, wonder more, and help often. And it starts with the assemblies so that people can celebrate life here. But we have a Facebook page, groups. We'll tell you more about that later on for you to join in. So today's assembly is about using art and engaging people in the art, because you might find this surprising. Some people find art a little bit maybe not easy to engage in. They think, oh, and I'll tell you where it starts, at school, generally, with no offence to teachers. Because what happens is when you're a little kid, you paint a picture of a house and your parents are like, oh, that is the best house I've ever seen. And you're so pleased with yourself. And then around, maybe it's late primary school, maybe it's secondary school, someone might gently say to you that maybe your house isn't as realistic as it could be. And then suddenly there's a weight put on that. And it's not just in the visual arts. As a kid, you're singing, you're playing musical instruments, you're doing drama. And then the minute that our drama teacher says, oh, we're going to cast this show and you're going to have to audition and here's a script, suddenly arts can feel so distant. And I'm quite interested that in lockdown, we have art seems to have fallen by the wayside on the muchness because maths and English often take priority. So to get art and drama and music in your life can be hard, but it is ace and life transforming. And we're going to prove that with our speaker and poet today. So the first person I'd like to introduce to you is the very wonderful Gerry Potter, who is a poet. I'm just going to bring him on here now. Here is Gerry. Gerry, have you been a poet for a long time, or is this new to you?
No, I've been a poet for I've been two poets actually. So I've been a poet for many decades, 3 decades, which is quite a long time actually.
2 decades. And have you been creative your whole life?
Well, I suppose so, yes. But I came from a very working class area in Liverpool where creativity was kind of something that people were, but you didn't go to find it. It wasn't. So, for example, I couldn't be an actor, but you could be very creative joke telling or musically or something. So it wasn't until I was 16 and I joined the Everyman Youth Theatre. And then I realized, oh my God, I really want to be on stage more than anything else in the world. And the Everyman Youth Theatre gave me the opportunity to do that, and not only that, but to find it was the first time I'd ever found myself good at anything, so it was yes, but not until I was 16 did I discover it
for yourself. Well, thank you very much, Gerry. You are our poet for today. You're going to share us some wisdom on this. So ladies and gentlemen, go wild for Gerry Potter.
Thank you very much. Right. Soon as it's arty based, this is about a favourite Manchester artist, or is he? Years and years and years ago, I was like a real sort of Queenie synthy cellar club teen, and I loved soft sound and stuff like that. And then the Smiths came along, and they were great and fabulous, but they weren't for me. But I knew that generation were really getting the Smiths, and I thought, well, that's fine, isn't that? All those disenfranchised youths. I'm really pleased you've got your hero. But then I really went off Morrissey when it looked to me like he was trying to galvanize the far right. He might not have been, but that's what it looked like to me. So this is about that, and it's called The Morrissey Factor, or Manchester Has Born a Martyr. Cobbles have turned upside down. Elsie's a deeper shade of blues on rouge. Rita's hushed. Youth has gone. Around the fountains, really been ring-fenced. Is it about keeping them out, whoever them and out is? English, Irish starts with immigration, bleeding hearts starved on famine boats. Is it the where we belong, the who we are, the why we've been and are going to? Hateful's hollow, an unbone a drag, an empty pill to swallow. D'Alessandro can only silent. What's left to say when there's too much said? Heaven knows what's different, what's miserable now. So here's to you, Tommy Robinson. Jesus forgives you more than you will know, apparently. Before Sheila took a final, she painted a backstreet multicultural, a Manchester of questionable sea, of how now is soon far away. Charming that man then. Well, the last of the gang shut that unstable door. We're met in murder when we choose to forget. This next piece, it's LGBTQI History Month, and this is one of my favourite queers. It's about Miss Marsha P. Johnson. And if you don't know Marsha P. Johnson, she was this really fantastic, in the 70s, New York, fantastic, tall, black, powerful, outrageous, crazy queen who was really politicized, really marvelous, did loads of things, trans, drag, everything, and was really part of forming what we are today, and instrumental in beach. She didn't start the Stonewall Riots, but she was instrumental in it. So she was this powerful thing, housing trans youth, the whole thing. And what I love everything about it. What I love most about her is she thought Neptune was like her dad. Her catchphrase was "Pay it no mind." And this is for Miss Marsha P. Johnson, a tribute, and it's called Pay Her Mind. In depths of Hudson, on shelf of myth, Neptune has you, sassy ornament. Within currents of legend and mirrorball headdress, you swim steer through continents. You, his daughter, joy and pride, and he, as you always thought, is your father. Seaweeded pearls weave your hair, every second a mermaid, every inch queer, leggier than Esther Williams' smile wide. Sky is always high tide. Slow drawl, camp slide, superfly majesty, worlds taken from you, reclaimed and yours. Gutter disco is hearing in howl around, seeing in sound. You, our heartbeat, honey, music blessed. You, notes on breeze, pavement pound, glittering complete togetherness. And all the little coloured lights go do, 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 do. You could see purest humanity, cities infinity, new flying how and where to soar. All those arms and legs of yours, a crowd of a million possibilities, visionary limbs beckoning the familiar of dance floors. Wish I knew you, think I do, feel you roll rattling in every song, think I hear what you sung, hope I sing along. Dead? Yes, but will never die. Light like yours perpetual shines. Heart that big, always beating in the steps of our dancing, strobing of our wow. Catwalk of our streeting. Brilliant find, queerdom seed, pronouncing freedom, rejecting greed, renouncing grind. Miss Marsha P., I most certainly pay you mind. And this next piece is this next piece spans two pandemics actually, and I came up with the title in the AIDS pandemic of the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital when I was watching doctors and nurses, particularly nurses, zoom around this incredibly complicated life-saving equipment and being nurses and being other things, and I was just looking at their hands, and then I was asked to write something for the NHS for the 70th birthday, 70th anniversary, and I had the title, so I thought, well, I'll do that. And now we're in this pandemic, and it seems very fitting for now. It's dedicated to all key workers, but it's dedicated to those particularly those nurses in that AIDS ward in the Chelsea and Westminster. It's called Those Fingers. Those fingers, sheet folding, bedside mannered and rolling, occasionally maybe scolding, running along the crease. Those fingers never cease, warring bodies needing peace. Those fingers administer release from pain. Those fingers, time and time again, tireless, priceless, trained, targeted, aimed. Those fingers, intricately humane and stitching. Switching from one role to another, those fingers, sister, auntie, father, mother, those fingers smother, brother, and no matter other, those fingers offer handfuls of hope, the scope to cope and chill. Those fingers dishing out potion and pill, those fingers fast, those fingers still, Friends, cleanse, kin, boss, win, loss. Those fingers see you through. Flu jab, brew, never the don't win, doing the do. Those fingers 5, decades saving lives, soothing hives and mind. Those fingers thrive in living, selflessly giving. Those fingers kind. Brow mopped, never stopped, wiping bottoms, tops, transplanting organs, cleaning slops. Those fingers filling holes, full of drive and goals, never half-hearted, getting stopped, heart started, cheeks parted, thermometer in, vomiter, bold. Those fingers young, middle-aged, old, often warm, occasionally cold. Those fingers on fire, inspire, take society higher, seemingly never tire. Hands shaken with life-saving thanks, shouldn't be using food banks. Those fingers often thwarted, positions distorted, misreported, must always be supported. And after all they've done, all they've saved, sorted, must never be deported. Those fingers birth, those fingers death. Close eyes, first breath, new moon, sunset. Entering the world, simply the best. Guiding the old baby to breast. And I'd like to leave you with this, which is a poem I think very much, I wrote it 10, 11 years ago, but it feels so now. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for simply surviving, I don't think. And then suddenly this happens and we're surviving again. So I think lots of us struggle, and now we're struggling on top of struggling. This poem is about struggling on top of struggling. It's called and it's dedicated to you all. It's called The Soldiering of Soldiering On. This is not positivia. I'm well aware a child somewhere is watching her mother die of AIDS, that a trickle-down joy has made her smile. A beach fire, a scold, a street party. This is not a whitewash where we cleanse our chakras clarity blue. It's the soldiering of soldiering on, because you have to, simply have to. Unless you don't want to, can't, that's a different story, and I understand it. The wondering of wondering things, pond life of pondering, because history isn't made up of ding-dong dings that never happened. This is water on a morning face, ting-a-ling-a-ling, morning of a wintered state, demolition of fate, reimagining of great. It's a world, things happen. It's the soldiering of soldiering on. This next breath I take, key I press, thought I hate, love, want. It's filling time, stuff, nonsense. It's the pressure of pressing on because someone loves you, or will, or might, or can't, won't even, not allowed. Remember those amazing parties where laughter rediscovered humanity? Because someone somewhere is making soup, brilliant soup, or crayoning a butterfly, the lovely colours of crayons. This is not positivia. I'm well aware some people can't afford crayons and we're training teenagers to shoot teenagers. Simply the soldiering of soldiering on, because there's tea to drink and monsters to manifest, toast, rages that stumble making you smile, those amazing parties. There's a rhyme to hide in the miming of language. Soup! For God's sake, man, there's soup! Brilliant soup! And we all know how that can taste. It's ache, it's kiss, the murmuring of wuthering heights, the jangle woven danger of secrets, the smell of a puppy, your first E. That child's mother has died of AIDS. Ting-a-ling-a-ling, snow. Thank you very much.
Gerry Potter, everybody. Thanks so much. Gerry, would you be kind enough to let us know where we can get hold of your poetry or enjoy it?
Absolutely. If you Google Flapjack Press, I have several books on there. Well, yeah, a weighty library of books, if you like.
A plethora.
Yeah, a plethora. Yeah, a plethora herd of books. So yeah, so you can get it from Flapjack Press.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we've had loads and loads of lovely compliments for you,
Oh, thank you.
which I love it. I think amazing, etc. So thank you very much, Gerry, for your time
Thank
and for
you.
your words. And you covered a lot of subjects, I might add. Good for you. Thanks so much. That was Gerry, everybody. I should mention, actually, my name is Louise. I just get so used to being here that I forget to introduce myself. I'm so excited about everyone else coming in, which I should do, but I forget to mention who I am. A few things brought up from Gerry there. Some things that maybe we don't advocate also, but very very amazing. But one thing that I picked up upon was the thread with the NHS, and to just throw that into art a little bit. I went to see an absolutely amazing piece that was in the British Museum. Just last year, in fact, just before lockdown came in, there was two people, a man and a woman, and their entire NHS medication from birth to death was laid out in a row as an art installation. It had details of the two people that it represented, and their entire lifespan was put out in medication. And this is where I think art is at its best. Whether you're colouring in, I mean, one line from Gerry's poem that really touched me was somewhere someone is making soup. That is a creative act, and as kids we are so creative, as I've told you, we are so creative. And then by the time you get to a certain age, some of us carry on like Gerry, and other people stop because we don't think we're creative. You ask people, are you creative? I'm not creative, I'm not very creative, very proud. And it's like, well, do you make bread, do you make soup? So there's this creative thing. But what the great thing about laying all these tablets out in a row showed was something that words could not explain, and to see it all laid out and what a life is. And along it there were little Polaroids that explained the bits in the person's life. So the lady had far more medication than the man because she also had all her contraception. There was you could see the life. So the inoculations of a child, the medication that they were given because one of them was diabetic, the medication of contraception, all the way through. And then the lady lived, I think, until she was about 90. So her life continued for another 20 years beyond the man's. And there was just I can't even say to you in words what that said. It wasn't really about the NHS. It wasn't really about a life. But there's something about seeing a life in medication that so hit upon something beautiful that I couldn't possibly explain it to you. And I think if I was to explain art, that would be it. And sometimes art, I think, can be quite highbrow and feel alienated from us, but there's something magical about seeing someone's explanation of life through either poetry or art. So that's how I feel about it. Let me introduce our speaker for today, who can possibly join me with this discussion here. This is Lisa Allen, everybody. Go completely wild. She's the co-head of culture at Touchstones in Rochdale. Now, if you're not from Rochdale or you've not been there, it is an art gallery and museum that is there, along with wonderful places we have across the northwest that have great exhibitions and things going on. Would you just say a little bit, Lisa, about what it's like at Touchstones?
Yeah, of course. Rochdale has some beautiful buildings. For those of you who haven't been to Rochdale, I'm going to join Judith and promote the wonders of Rochdale. And I'm so sad she's not here today. So I think Rochdale, like a lot of our wonderful northern towns, gets a bit of a bad press. And there are some beautiful and wonderful things happening in Rochdale. And Touchstones is one of those beautiful buildings. So please, when you can and when we can reopen, do come and visit us. We have some beautiful Victorian gallery spaces, and we have a lovely museum telling the story of Rochdale. And I have to say, I'm not from Rochdale, I'm a Bolton girl, but they do have the best town hall, I think, in Greater Manchester.
Very beautiful town hall, yeah, very lovely. And you know, I mentioned before that I was at the British Museum just before lockdown. My son is a big fan of museums, so we went to London and we wheeled him in his wheelchair around all these museums, and we took him to the National History Museum, which is one of his favourites.
Yes.
And right in the National History Museum is normally a ginormous dinosaur, lovingly called Dippy. Those of you from London,
Yes.
or anyone who's been to London will probably know that. If you come to Manchester's museum, we have Stan, the T-Rex. So we all have these sort of natural,
Natural History Museum.
sorry, it became natural. And yeah, Big Dippy in the foyer, beautiful. But when we went there, Dippy wasn't there. There was a massive blue whale, which is just as impressive and beautiful. And I know why, because Dippy is on tour. And Dippy's first stop was Rochdale.
No, not first stop. We were
Was it not
second.
the first one?
No, we were
What is
second.
the first one?
Second
Oh,
to the last. Yeah.
really? Okay, I
Yes.
find that surprising. So sorry for my research.
No, that's all right.
Tell me
Second to the
about
last stop, and I feel like Rochdale was the place that Dippy went to die, unfortunately. But it's
first stop. There you go.
it was our bad luck. But anyway, we did get Dippy, and Dippy arrived. We've been planning the arrival of Dippy for probably about 4 years, and Dippy arrived in February, just before lockdown, and we had about 5 weeks of amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. Queues right down from Touchstones to the town hall in all kinds of weather, people from all over and all over the world. Actually, we had international visitors coming. We in half term in that February we had 4,000 visitors every day, and normally at Touchstones we would get between 150 and 200 people bobbing around. So it was unbelievable and amazing for Rochdale. And then unfortunately, obviously the lockdown came, and we had to close our doors, which was really sad. And I feel like there is a lot of sadness around what happened with Dippy, but we're trying to take the positives from it as well, because we did get to reopen, and I had a lovely time in the summer working with 5 actors. I may have been the only organisation at that point to be employing actors, but we reimagined the Dippy exhibition, because our version of it, our exhibition, the dinosaur was at number 1 Riverside, so we were split over 2 sites.
Because it's massive. If you've not
it's
seen
so big, yeah.
know the size of it by any chance?
Oh, I can't remember.
Huge. Fine, carry on. Don't worry.
But it's big. And so we had the interpretation, we had the exhibition that went alongside it in our 4 gallery spaces, but it was a really family friendly, hands-on, interactive, very touchy-feely exhibition. So when we reopened with COVID regulations, I had to completely reimagine and rip most of it out. So my background is theatre. I'm a theatre maker, and I thought, when better than to bring 5 actors in, and we made a show as the interpretation, really. So we had 3 actors on. We had 5, but 3 in the show, and they played scientists who'd travelled back to find out about history and to find out about Touchstones, to power up their time machine to get back to where they came from. And it was lovely. It was wonderful, and we had a couple of months of doing that before the next lockdown. So we've taken some small joys, but actually, what it's done for us is it's animated our spaces in a different way, and it's shown quite a lot of people that actually we can do different things in museums and gallery spaces. So
very interesting. What do you think is the impact going to be on art galleries and museums, a lot of which are still closed at this time?
Louise, I just don't know. It's quite a frightening time, really. And I think, especially for commercial spaces or part commercial, part funded spaces, it's the price of closing your doors is still quite costly, isn't it? And although lots of places are furloughing staff, it's we've been really lucky to get Culture Recovery Fund. We went for that first round, and we've got that. But I think we're all in a very precarious position, actually. And I honestly don't know what will happen when we can all reopen again. But let's hope that everyone is able to do something moving forward.
Exactly, it's a tough time. So we talked briefly about engaging people in the arts, and you do that directly. What is the benefit of what you do, of the museums, and about the sort of outreach that you do? So tell me a little bit, first of all, about the sort of projects that you've been doing in the past.
Yes, we had a chat, didn't we, on Friday, and you give me a heads up about choosing a project, and it's been so difficult because I'm quite old and I've been doing this a very long time. But I'd like to choose a project to talk about that's from Rochdale. When I first started, I've been there for 5 years now, and when I first started, I was working with an artist called Rachel Kneebone, who she does sculpture, and she uses porcelain, and her work is beautiful. If you get a chance to see some of her work, 399 Days is coming to Wakefield, to Yorkshire Sculpture Park, and it's very beautiful. So I would definitely suggest going to see that. So she wanted to work with us, and she wanted to explore the idea of the movement in her work, and she'd always wanted to work with a choreographer and with a group of women. And so we chatted about this, and we planned for a good couple of years. And then I started to recruit, when we knew the work was coming, I started to recruit some women, and we gathered together about 35 women from Rochdale, a very diverse mix of women, all ages, all backgrounds, and not many of them had had any dance experience. And that's really what we wanted, people who hadn't really had any dance experience but were interested in coming together. We employed 3 professional choreographers who came in and worked with them. We took them down to London to meet Rachel. They got to see her work. They got to see her make her work. They talked about the movement in her work with her, and she stayed in touch with them, and she came to visit their sessions throughout the process. We worked with that group for about a year. And when we opened Rachel's exhibition, they had created a response piece to that work, which was about Rachel's work, but it was also, whenever you bring a group of people together, the work becomes about them and should become about them. So they created this beautiful piece of dance that was about women. It was about how they felt about living in Rochdale. It was about how they felt about Rachel's work. And they performed that in the town hall, and we partnered with the Royal Exchange, who came in and lit it beautifully for us. And they performed it underneath the huge painting of the Magna Carta, which is a very male space. It's a beautiful space, but it feels very masculine, that town hall. And so they performed this beautiful piece on the opening of Rachel's show. And that group, that was 2 years ago, and that group are still meeting. They meet every Wednesday. They've renamed themselves. They're not the Rachel Kneebone dance group anymore. They're called Women in Touch. And they this year have just started to have some really interesting conversations about what that group is, and intersectionality, and what it means to be a woman, and who can join that group and who can be part of that group. So I just think it's been completely, and they will say it's been completely life-changing for them, actually, and has given them, they have a new family. They call themselves the dance family. And I think you mentioned before, Louise, didn't you, that the arts can be transformational, and it absolutely can, but it can offer a really safe space for people to have conversations and open up a dialogue about things that they perhaps wouldn't talk about normally.
Yes, exactly. And how do you in your job get people engaging with the arts, as this is the theme of the talk today?
Yeah.
What is the key to reaching communities that might not naturally use art, or maybe they use it in a slightly different way?
Yeah, I mean, I think people ask me this all the time, and it's really, sometimes I find it quite hard to
Put it into
explain, but because I think a lot of it's quite instinctive, and it's something that I hate that phrase, hard to reach, because I don't think anybody is hard to reach if you if you try hard enough.
I would like to add that I spent 10 years as a drama therapist and I reached people who were described as hard to reach.
Yeah.
No one's hard to reach.
No, they're really not. No. And it's about building up relationships, and building up trust and kindness. I feel like, I don't go into any group, or I don't go into any place having preconceived ideas about, I try not to have those preconceived ideas about a place or about people, and I just assume that there's goodness and kindness in everyone, and that's what we've got in common, and take it from there, and that usually works. But I think it's not about saying, here's this amazing building with this amazing art in it. It's about going to the place where people are, and even if that's sitting in their living room having a cup of tea with them, that's fine. But it isn't, we can't just have these amazing spaces and expect people to walk through the door, because not everyone will. They're quite intimidating spaces, and like you say, we've all probably had years of someone telling us that art's not for us, and so you carry that around with you, don't you? So I go to community centres, I go on the streets, I go into people's houses, I make friends with people, I talk to people, I find things that we've got in common, and then gradually, I would never go. I was saying this to you on Friday as well, wasn't I? I would never go into a group and say, who wants to do some drama? Because that never goes down well.
I was a therapist and I never said that. They go, you're a drama therapist, Louise. I went, yes, I am. But also, let's not start with that.
Yeah, I never start with that. Normally I start with food. Everyone eats. Yeah.
But I think that's a bit of a shame, as you say. It's very insulting to say that people are hard to reach, but also it's a bit of a shame that we've got to come tiptoeing in, because there's all sorts of societies, and certainly young people. I mean, this idea of play, I use play a lot in my work.
Yeah.
Even incredibly unwell children and children that have suffered a lot of abuse in the past can mainly, on the whole, play. It's something very natural. We're creative human beings. We make stuff, we do stuff, and then something about us later in life makes us sort of rigid in. Do you have any tips, in a small way, of how we can engage with that part of ourselves and without having to have someone come out to us? How do we bring that out in some way?
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? But I think it's about finding stories, isn't it? And we all love stories, and then I think it's about remembering that you have a story to tell as well, and your story is as interesting as when you go and sit in a theatre and listen to somebody else's story. And I do think, to link back to the poetry that we've heard today, which was amazing. I do think creative writing is a really great tool, and it's free. You can just sit and do that in your own home, can't you, and find your own stories to tell.
Please feel free to put any questions in the chat box. Tony's just added one, but I have personally one final question for you, but anyone else would like to talk on any topic. And Lisa has a huge amount of experience in lots of different areas with the art, so if you've got a question, please ask her. I just wanted to ask about COVID. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
And what you think the future is. Are you doing anything to support people with this? What do you think arts can do for people in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm doing quite a lot of work with public health at the minute, and the council, and I think it's really great because they're starting to ask for creative ways to engage with people, and so that's the kind of thing that we've started to look at doing, using creative methods of engagement to talk to people about just simple things about how they're feeling, but also more important things for public health around the vaccination, for example, and why there isn't much take up in certain areas, and just getting information that public health need. But mostly for me, it's about building resilience. So thinking about that COVID recovery, and especially for young people. I also started in youth theatre, and I'm a massive advocate for youth theatre, and work with young people in general. I think we're going to have a huge mental health crisis on our hands for young people, and so I'm starting to look at ways in which we can work with schools, but also outside of schools, and to look at using creativity to build resilience, and talk about COVID recovery, really.
It's very interesting. There's a book called Child's Play, and in it they tell a story from the 50s where some children in a playground who were under 11, so they were primary school children, witnessed a man falling from a telegraph pole. It was a terrible accident that happened, and they witnessed it. And it took about 3 days before the children started to play that out. They were working it into their play. We have all these natural ways of getting the stuff out.
Absolutely.
Given the support to do it, so that is definitely an amazing thing. I'm just going to ask you a question from the chat box. What steps do you take at Touchstones to get children and teenagers to engage with the arts? And we've just briefly talked about that now, but is there anything specifically you think for kids?
I mean, we have a massive education program, and we're lucky to have some lovely spaces that children and young people can use. We also I run youth theatre groups, both in the building and out in schools, and also in community settings. We do loads of partnership work with the youth service. And then we run family friendly days where families come in. I think it's really important to work, to offer things that families can do together as well. So we have lots of, when we can open, we have lots of exciting things for families to do.
Are you running groups online at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, we've got 3 youth groups running online every week, and I have 5 community groups online every week, which is okay, but it's not as good as in person, but at least we're still working and still connecting with people, so that's good.
Amazing, thank you very much. Yes, there's a tough sort of road ahead in our recovery, but I am absolutely confident that it will be we need to be creative, and it just sometimes makes us feel that there's something bigger than ourselves, and that's what Sunday Assembly is about. If your background is different, that you may not have religion, or your relationship with religion is strange, art can give us almost like a touch to generations before, and an idea of something bigger than ourselves. Almost art galleries can be cathedrals in their own way to
absolutely.
Humanity.
And joy. We all need joy, don't we?
We need joy. Thank you very much, Lisa, Alan, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Us on and on, I'm sure, and thank you very much for answering my tough questions in some case. Please feel free to pop any links in that you have, Lisa. Oh, sorry, I'm getting rid of you, but I do want you to do one final thing, because there's something that you do that I know will be useful to our congregation here, and that's mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is a thing that we hear about all the time, and it's almost like, must be mindful. Everyone tells me to be mindful. So we're going to provide you with a practical exercise to help you. Rather than doing our moment of reflection, we're going to actually do a little bit of mindfulness now. You may be someone who's a practitioner of it. You may be someone who's, I should be doing mindfulness. But just to give you a little bit of context from my life, I read a book recently. I mean, people have mentioned Brené Brown, who talks a lot about shame and beating ourselves up about things and making ourselves feel bad, and there's a part of mindfulness which is about compassion, and sometimes, and exactly as Gerry said in his poetry, sometimes just getting up in the morning is enough. And mindfulness is not thinking about the past and not thinking about the future, which our brains want to do, by the way, all the time, but trying to focus on the present. And that doesn't mean not thinking or clearing your head. It means just being aware. So if that's
absolutely
all right, would you lead us in something to do?
I will, yes. So I use
like you. There we go.
I'm no mindfulness specialist, but I do use mindfulness, and Judith, that's how I met Judith, actually. And she comes to the sessions that I run. I run mindfulness art observation sessions at the gallery. So when we're open, please come. They're on the last Friday of every month. So I'm just going to do it's quite hard to do mindfulness on Zoom, but I want to just take you through a guided breathing exercise and then just some sensory stuff. So get yourselves comfortable. And like Louise says, mindfulness is about grounding yourself in the moment, and it's about not clearing everything, but just being aware. And if we can be aware of our breathing, I think that's a really good start. So I would invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, and to take a nice deep breath in to start. And then simply become aware of your breathing. Think about where your breath sits in your body and what your breath feels like. And as you breathe in and out, how does your breath feel? Is it cool or does it feel warm? And just breathe in and out. I don't want you to alter your breathing. I just want you to breathe normally. But I want you to focus all of your attention on your breath. And if you feel like thoughts are coming in and you're thinking about the rest of the things that you have to do today, that's all right, because that is what our minds do. Simply return back to your breath. And focus on your breathing. And enjoy taking a moment just for yourself. I'm going to invite you to take 5 breaths, and after the 5th breath, you can open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, I want you to have a little look around and really take in your surroundings. Sometimes we're so busy that we don't look, when I'm walking, I'm usually in a rush to get somewhere, and I look at the ground, and I very rarely look up and out. And I think sometimes we just get caught up in being so busy and getting to the thinking about where we've got to go to that we don't appreciate the journey to get us there. So I want you to look at your space. I know you're probably quite familiar with it because you've been in it a lot, but really look at it and take some time. And I want you to think about grounding yourself and enjoying your space and not feeling hemmed in by it, but just taking some pleasure from it today. And I want you to think about 5 things that you can see in your space. Count them off. I want you to think about 4 things that would be nice to touch in your space. Things that would feel nice. Things that would ground you in your space. And then I want you to think about 3 things that you can hear. And 2 things that you can smell. And then I want you to focus in. I want you to choose something in your space and really focus in on it. It might be, you might have a picture on the wall. It might be a piece of interesting fabric that you have on a cushion or on your settee. It might be a plant, but just focus in on one thing. And I want you to really focus your attention on that thing. And I want you to really look at it and spend time focusing on that thing. Look at the color and the texture. Think about where the light hits it. And what it would feel like. Or even what it would smell like. But really focus all your attention on that one thing. So that you are just taking a little bit of time to just concentrate and focus in and ground yourself and do something nice for yourself. And take a nice deep breath in and a cleansing breath out. And that's us. Thank you very much. I hope it was nice.
Lisa home with me right now because that was so relaxing. Thank you very much, Lisa, Alan, everybody. Thanks so much for being our speaker today, and a big shout out to Gerry Potter too as well. Our amazing speakers for today. Go wild, Sunday Assembly Manchester, and I hope you're feeling amazingly relaxed now. Now, one thing that I spotted while doing my own version of the mindfulness was this cotton reel, which I'd forgotten I had in my room. It's from Stylebank Mill. You can buy it in the shop, Style in Cheshire. It's from when the mill was working in the 60s. So it's not like mega ancient, but it is from the 60s. And I looked at it and I thought I bought this to remind me of Manchester because of our heritage in cotton. And our industrial revolution, many things that happened here, and it's been sat in my office the whole time, and I've never really noticed it since. And I put it here, so it's amazing what you will find in your own house. So I hope today has inspired you to realise the creative person you are inside, and particularly if you're feeling down at the moment, it's really good to find ways to express yourself, whether that be as simple as baking or painting or whatever. And there doesn't have to be any, you know, reason for the end of it. You know, you can journal and no one needs to ever see it again. Do you know what I mean? So you find your own way of being creative, and I hope that's inspired you. I'm sure many of you may go to art galleries and museums, but there are outreach programs in so many places around the country, particularly around Manchester, that do mindfulness. I mean, who knew that you could have that amazing mindfulness session? So doing things with Lisa or anyone else around the country is an amazing thing to do. I'm just going to go to my chat very briefly because people are saying that you have a natural voice. I think Lisa says you're a natural mindful person, Lisa, which is lovely to say. You have a relaxing voice. You were born for this. Honestly, the praise that's coming in is amazing. Please feel free to donate to our Patreon page. Thank you so much if you do. My kids have started screaming. And this is free, and if you can't afford it, that's fine. I'm just going to be 1 second. I was just having a small mindful word with my children. It would be great if you could donate. We are all volunteers doing this for nothing, so it would be great to help us with Zoom and things like that. I'm just going to tell you your next assembly, and then we'll say goodbye to YouTube, and then we'll end with a song. Tony's here to tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Louise. So next Sunday is Valentine's Day, and of course it's a lockdown Valentine's Day. So what better way to start Valentine's Day than coming to this loving community for a little cyber hug with everybody? And we've got a guy called Craig Glenday who works for Guinness World Records, and he's going to be talking about some romantic world records. No rude ones. Remember, it's Sunday morning. And we've got a lovely poet who's actually with us today called Bridie Breen, and talk about a natural voice. She's got the most lyrical and lilting Irish accent you could possibly imagine. So come for that. Thursday nights, we've still got Adam running the Knit and Natter, the crafting group, every Thursday night. And just a little heads up for an event this coming Friday, February the 12th.
I'm just going to hold you 1 second. So before we go into that, I'm going to say goodbye to YouTube. We'll see you at an assembly, YouTube.